Whether you are thinking about starting your own business, or perhaps you're in the early stages of your very own online business, then make sure to watch this video because I'm going to tell you some of the deadly mistakes that I have made in the first year of business, and I'm sharing them with you so you don't make these same mistakes. Hey there, my name is Katelyn and I'm the CEO of KR Video Marketing Agency, and I also run a coaching business. We help coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs implement marketing systems and strategies into their very own business so that they can increase their visibility, their credibility, and ultimately their profits through the power of social media. Now, like I said, I have been in business for 1 full year, and I can't even believe that it's been just a year. However, in this past year, I have learned some pretty big lessons, I'll call them, rather than mistakes. And again, I want to share them with you so you don't go and make these same mistakes. Now, I've already actually written an Instagram post, or if you are part of my email list, you probably have read this, but I wanted to come on right here on this channel and share with you guys more in depth, a little behind the scenes of how that mistake or lesson happened and what I did to correct the mistake to continuing on. Now, as you probably tell, I don't like calling them mistakes. I rather call them lessons because I truly do believe that no matter where you are in this journey, you're going to make quote unquote mistakes. However, it's up to us to really allow ourselves to grow through those mistakes and really learn from them. And it is in doing some of those mistakes where we become our higher version of ourselves and really truly build a phenomenal business. Now, wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, I invite you to actually take my quiz. This is going to be a quiz. It's kind of like a personality quiz, so it's totally just fun to know who you are, where you are at, and maybe where you need to work on, or what areas you need to work through to really grow into this higher version, this CEO that you are made to do. I'll leave the link to the quiz below this video, so just go take it, learn a little bit more about yourself on what type of business owner you are. Now, I also invite you to leave a comment below on how many years you have been in business. Is this your first year, second year? And what I would love to also know is how many pivots have you done since starting your own business? Because part of these mistakes or lessons that I have learned have really come from pivoting in my own business. So yes, although I've only been in business for 1 full year, I have probably made, I think I want to say about 3 pivots or expansions during that time. So I have been technically in business since 2016, where I had started or partnered with a network marketing company, and it was actually in May or June of 2020 when I'd actually reached out or hired, or I should say invested in my very first coach, who really was, I hired her initially to really help me grow and expand my network marketing business. It was through that process where I really explored the whole idea of branding, niching, and all those amazing parts and tools that I teach you right here on this channel or any part of my social media. And it was through that process where I had actually originally, I wanted to build a beauty guru Instagram page or YouTube channel. That was actually the very first vision I had ever had, and actually is the reason why I started my network marketing business to begin with, is because I wanted to start a YouTube channel and I wanted to be all about makeup and full of makeup tutorials. And if you actually go back, you will see some of my very first makeup tutorials that I've ever done and where that branding had originally started. Now, through that process, it was actually, and it was the coach at the time who had pulled out in me the idea and the concept that actually I was really good at making videos. And that was absolutely so true, because videos was a huge passion of mine. In fact, back when I was in grade 7 or something, I remember we had to make PowerPoint presentations to understand Microsoft PowerPoint, with back in that time was pretty minimal. I had actually made my PowerPoint presentation completely animated. I had really figured out, and I really made a video out of a simple PowerPoint. And it was really, I guess, since then that I realized that I was actually really good at making videos, and that was actually a bigger passion of mine. So I was using makeup as more of the form or the subject of the video, but where I was really gifted with or gifted in was making videos. And at that time, where so many businesses were forced to go online, I had a knack for making video and a truly understanding of why video content would and does perform so well, that it was that coach at that time who pulled it out of me, who said, "Hey, Katelyn, actually, I think you should really explore this idea, because there's so many people out there that really want to implement more video content but don't know how, and you're so gifted at it." So that was the first exploration of this idea and this concept of producing, editing, and making video for other businesses. And my first impression, or my first concept, idea, thought was absolutely no. That was not something I was interested in doing. I didn't want to edit other people's videos. It was something that I totally taught myself, and I just didn't understand how anybody else couldn't teach themselves. And while she told me was that there are people out there who just do not want to do it or don't want to invest the time in learning how to do it. And it was something that I found very interesting, and still interesting, to really learn different ideas, really study even movies, and understanding the flow, the pace, the tempo, and the cuts and the transitions and all those other things. In fact, now when I watch movies, I overanalyze it, where I'm looking for all of the cinematography behind it, that I have to actually just pause and remember that I'm here to watch a movie and not watch the tech behind all of it. So that was really where this whole video marketing agency was born. And that was probably around August. October is when I started on my first high 6-7 figure partner client into my business. And it since then has completely grown and exploded, where we have actually now a team of video editors and other people behind the scenes who are working with our clients or on our client work. And I am really the lead strategist, the CEO, who is bringing in the clients and just assigning it to our team. So it's really been a very exciting journey. But like I mentioned, there have been some pretty big lessons that I have learned that I want to share with you guys, so that you don't make these same mistakes when you're starting your very own business. So lesson number 1 is impulse purchasing programs, apps, software, all of those things without actually doing a little bit more research behind it, really making sure it was the right tool for myself and my business and my company, and also doing a more cost analysis study. So I want to tell you guys a little story behind that lesson. So back in December, I was in the middle of a launch, which there's a whole other lesson right there, where I didn't actually really map out or plan a launch. I just decided 2 weeks before launching that that's when we were going to do it, without actually understanding the whole process of launching. So at that time, I just needed a webinar tool, and I quickly did some research behind it. However, I was kind of in a panic, in a sense, where I needed something right then and now to perform. So I just did it. I impulse purchased a webinar program that cost me almost $1,000. I think since then I actually managed to get a little bit more of my money back, because I upgraded and I didn't need to upgrade. However, I've only used it once in my business. Now I do have plans on using it again, especially with what's coming down the pipeline for you guys. However, that was a big cost for only needing it like for an hour. I wish I had done more research behind it, and there was so many other ways I could have done it for much cheaper and have had the same results. So now what I do is I really value when programs or software has a trial period, and I really make sure what are the programs, the apps that we absolutely need. It's more to operate our business versus a want and a need. And I think a lot of people can get caught up in wanting to invest in some fancy equipment, but what you have to remember is that equipment going to provide you with the income producing activities, or is it just going to make the income producing activities prettier? So that was kind of a light bulb moment for me where I realized that I better do a little bit more research and do more of a cost analysis and really find other programs, ask friends, ask some other clients what they prefer, or even just YouTube it. I love YouTubing everything. And before I actually go in and purchase a program, an app, or a piece of software. Now, this second lesson was definitely the hardest lesson I learned, which was growing a team too quickly. I have to be honest, I got very excited with the movement and the growth and the expansion of the company, and I love to delegate tasks, and I found myself delegating tasks too quickly rather than, taking on the added time, if that was, or the added projects on my own shoulders before investing further into delegating the tasks. Now, like I mentioned, am a big believer in outsourcing and delegating. However, there is a responsible way of doing it. And all I can say is there's nothing worse than having to go to somebody and saying, hey, I will no longer need your services, and cutting them off dry, then rather than really welcoming them in a very wholesome way and a really inviting, and it having a mutual relationship that feels really good for both parties. I am really all about happy money, meaning when money is coming in, it should feel really good, but equally when money is going out, it should feel just as good for yourself and for the other person receiving. If at any point money is coming out of your own finances or your business's finances and it feels wrong, it feels tight, there's tension there, that's not happy money. And you want to create that abundant flow when it's receiving money or whether it is giving away money. Now, the third mistake is something that was actually a little bit hard to swallow because it is something that I teach, and that is not having my own clarity in my own brand. So there were definite times when going through this business and in the middle of pivots or in between pivots even, where I didn't have a full clarity of what my brand was and who I was serving. Now, there is a strategy behind that, and maybe I'll get to that. However, what that really meant is everything became very diluted, and even for members of my team working in the brand, it felt very diluted to them as well, and not being able to really pinpoint how we're actually helping people or how can we help people. And that, like I said, is hard to swallow because I teach having that clarity, and you need that clarity in order to grow and move your business, because it is that clarity that allows somebody to really understand how you can help them. So yes, I've made that mistake, and I'm totally transparent here in letting you know that that has happened in my own brand. However, like I mentioned, it being a lesson is every time I've, sat back, I've meditated on it, or I've really defined more about my brand, we have always exponentially grown our business. And that was because I was able to really sit into my brand and my business to understand more parts of it and how we can better help people, which again, the rebound from that was that the company grew. So while yes, I teach about having clarity and making sure you have a brand and you're niching down, you have to also acknowledge and trust the process as really the journey as you move forward in business, because the clarity will come as you develop your own business and your own brand. Now, the fourth mistake or lesson that I have learned was always looking for outward for validation. Now, this is in part something that I personally grow through and work on. on a regular basis is not needing that outward validation. And part of my human design is truly having an open heart center and being very emotional, responsive. That's the only way I can define it. And so that means I really value what people feel, look. I value people's opinions. You could even say that I care too much what people think of me. However, that's in part of having an open heart center as part of my human design. Now, what that means in my business is then I sometimes fall into that outward validation where now when it comes to decision in my own business or my agency, I'm always leaning on somebody else's opinion rather than sitting in my own and really trusting myself in the decision and myself as that CEO. And that, like I said, is something that I'm continuously working on because it's really important, especially as we use social media as one of our major tools, to really trust yourself as that CEO and not always having to lean on whether that's a coach, a mentor, or even just other people's opinions. Now, I'm not here to say that having a coach or a mentor is a bad thing. It's absolutely a really important piece of it, but it's also to understand who you are as that CEO, and really ultimately the decision all fall on your shoulders. So trust your gut and trust your instincts and feel through the process when it comes to making a decision in your own business. I have to be honest with you, was another big pill to swallow. And I think part of that came from my network marketing background, where it truly is a business in a box. You don't need any kind of legality behind it. You don't need any contracts or anything when it is related to legals and lawyers. And when you're moving into your own business, there are so many other parts of your business where you have to consult with a lawyer. Now, luckily, one of my really good friends is a lawyer, so I'm always able to ask her opinion on things, and she is the lawyer in my business. And part of that was making sure that I had copyrights to my courses so that people could not copy and, paste that or send it out to the world or other people to see. Is now that I do have copyrights, I have a legal backup when things start floating around, or if things start floating around. In the very beginning of my stages of my business, I didn't have this. And what happened is I created an amazing tool for people, and it spread like wildfires. Now, I truly just have a heart to serve out of that. And it truly was just a lesson, and really coming from an abundant mindset, and have impacted so many people who, with that resource where it grew people's businesses right to the top of their network marketing company. And so I'm very thankful and honored to have been a part of that. However, moving forward in my business, I make sure my logo's on everything. I have copyrights, and I make sure that is on all of my things so that I do have that legal backup, and I can go to somebody if I do find that somebody has copied my work or passed it on without the written permission of myself. So that's definitely a lesson to be learned. Now, kind of a piggyback lesson with that is not having the financial backup for all those legal things. Now, you never know when somebody's going to come back and ask for a refund, or for whatever reason. You do need almost a little bit of a retainer in your own business to allow for those added expenses. And knowing your numbers, period, is really, really important. And I remember hearing this from tons of other people that I look up to in business, is know your numbers, know your numbers. And I'm not a numbers person, so I tried to play naive for as long as possible when it came to understanding my numbers and really analyzing all that stuff, until I realized that I need to be in charge. And if I truly want to be the CEO that I deserve and want to be, then I need to love numbers and learn how to love numbers and do it in a way that feels good inside of me. And so with that said, now I have a backup where I can go into certain contracts or have that legal backup if I need to, because I have that financial resource to depend on. Now, this sixth lesson is a lesson that wherever you are in business, you will learn this lesson very quickly, especially when you have clients or you are a service-based business, is setting boundaries and expectations. I'm a giver. I'm naturally a giving person, and I will always give all of myself to you. And I believe that there are givers like myself, but there's also takers who will take as much as they absolutely can from a person. And because I'm a giver, I have put in situations or relationships really where I was giving away too much and that person was taking so much from me. And what I realized is that I needed to set up more boundaries, and not only with my client relationships, but just boundaries in general around my work. Because, kind of a little bit off topic here, is when you start your own business or when you run your very own business, it is truly like your baby. Now, I have 2 kids. I'm not saying my business is the same as having babies, but what I'm saying is that it becomes your baby in the sense of you grew this, you created it, you made it, and you want to care for it, you want to love it on it, and you want to pour yourself into it. However, that can easily leak into other parts of your life. And obviously, as a mom of 2 and a wife, that those boundaries need to be set so that I have boundaries with my work when I'm doing my work. And respectfully, my kids and my husband also understand that, hey, mom is working right now, and those boundaries are there. We respect them, just like I respect when I'm not working. And I really work on this, because I'm not saying I'm perfect, that when I'm not working, I'm not working. My phone goes away, my computer's downstairs, and I'm focused, and I'm wearing the mom hat, I'm wearing the wife hat. And setting those boundaries in my business has really allowed me to not have so much overflow into other areas of my life, and really set up that strictness that I needed so that I can really live in the moment and not just be working all the time. Now, with that said, going on the client relationship aspect and those expectations and boundaries means that I have, as projects come in, that I have a determined amount of time, for example, where I need all of my clients' content in order for me to do the job that I know we are capable of doing, and to allow them the ability to approve and go over. And if they really want to go over things or go through their video with a fine-tooth comb, they have that time to do it. Because, you know, where I was coming from in the past is then I was staying up all night and I was working on videos for so long, and just so I can get it back to them at a high turnover rate that we do honor. And what that meant is I was taking away from myself and giving it all to my clients, if that makes any sense at all. So setting the expectations that we require your content at no later than this date to allow 1 week of edits, and your final video is sent to you by such and such date. Setting those expectations at the very beginning is very important, so that my clients know that if, for example, that expectation doesn't get met, then they are going to be charged a rush fee for that video. And having that has definitely helped, because my clients now know how we kind of really work in a really well flow together, where they're handing me or giving me their videos at a really beautiful time or period of time, and we can really take our time with that piece and really make it a work of art that we are so good at doing. So having those expectations, setting those boundaries, not only in your work-life balance and all those other parts of your, is really important. And the best way that I do that is by really going through my calendar at a weekly basis and sitting down and blocking out the time that I'm either working and what am I working on, as well as making sure that I block off time where I'm unavailable when it comes to my business. For example, from the hours of 5 to 8, because my kids are still young, they go to bed early. That's family time, that's supper time, that's no work time gets done. The only time I would say if that boundary gets broken is when we're in a heavy launch and just really building and creating, or perhaps maybe I'm doing a live or something at that time. However, I work really hard so that boundary is there, so that my kids still get their mom, and only their mom, not mom and business owner. Now, this last lesson is a big lesson, so please don't skim over it or skim past it and think, yeah, sure, maybe one time, or doesn't apply to me, because I thought the same thing at first, and it wasn't until months into my business where I physically noticed it. And that is all about ergonomics. So ergonomics, when it comes to your workspace, they matter. Before starting my own business, I worked at the hospital as a cardiovascular technologist, and I still do that casually, where we wear lead uniforms. We're standing, we're moving, we're just moving around constantly all day. And from starting my own business, I went to sitting at a desk for 8+ hours a day. And that hurt my body. I'm not totally young either. However, what I realized is that things and not having my desk set up really well and really proper meant that it would cause me to suffer in some other form. And I started getting a lot of tension headaches and migraines, all because the way my desk space was set up was not proper for me to be sitting there for longer periods of time. When I first built this office that you're seeing, I went for pretty. I told my husband I wanted white everything and it to be nice and slim and small and all these things. And really now, as I'm working and building and transitioning, I care less about the pretty and making it white. I care more about the functionality and the ergonomics behind everything. So before, I used to have just this one screen, and you guys can't see it, but I have another screen so that I can have more workspace when it comes to my actual computer. And before, this keyboard that you see behind me, which was a heavy investment for a keyboard, I had just a nice, beautiful, small, wireless, white keyboard, and that I found myself always hunched over to type. And same thing with the mouse. My wrists were aching and I could not figure out why, until one time I had to borrow my husband's computer, and he is a draftsman, so he works at a desk all day and he is set up properly. That's when I first realized, was like, wow, does this impact so much? Now, with that said, because I've transitioned to sitting a lot more, again, at a desk and less moving around, I have really focused on my self-care in the form of making sure I go for regular chiros, massages, I do dry needling and all those things to make sure that my body is handling as best as I can. Obviously, I can always do more of like stretching and yoga and exercising. I'm not going to get into that. However, making sure that my desk is set up for ergonomics and functionality over making it look pretty is something that I can only say start now, because your body definitely will pay for it in the long run. So just being aware, for example, even this amount of time that you're spending on your phone, making sure that you're not going like this and keeping it more so at eye level. That was a big, like I said, I just felt it in my body, and I started to suffer from a lot of jaw pain and migraines and headaches, and it all just stems of being rounded or being sitting at a desk for too long. So ergonomics matter. That's all that I'm going to say with that. Just making sure to keep out for your body. Obviously, as the CEO or a business owner, you don't have a business without your health. So keeping yourself healthy is so important, and should actually be the number one when it comes to running your business, period. Because again, like I said, if you're not there, if you're not at your healthiest, your business won't be at its healthiest. So with that said, those were some of the major lessons that I have learned in the last year in business. And I share this with you to not only just be transparent as I aim to be, but also so that as you're building and creating or starting your very own businesses, you can take some of these mistakes and lessons and really go into your own business knowing some stuff, kind of like let my hindsight be your foresight in starting your own business. Now, don't forget to take that quiz to learn what type of business owner you are, to learn again more about yourself and your personality, and understanding maybe even how you work on a daily basis, so that you know where you need to spend a little more time personally growing that part of you, and also just understanding more about about yourself and as that business owner. So that link is below this video. And with that said, if you did find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I would love for you to share this with your network so that they also learn more about starting or owning a business. And most importantly, guys, is I post a video every Sunday. So while you wait for next week's video, go ahead and check out some of these videos right here. And I will see you guys next week.